Hey, welcome to the Bad Belly. I'm Charlotte, and tonight I wanted to sit down and answer a whole bunch of questions that have come in with regard to the challenge phase of the FODMAP diet. I started that 3 days ago with honey. Last week I went to see my dietitian, Tammy. She's awesome. We had another really great appointment. She had a few concerns with regard to my procedures, but she's still confident that we can go ahead with the challenge phase and I can try things. I should be able to get 3 challenges in before I go in for my procedures, which would be fantastic. She's a little bit worried that I think more the colonoscopy than the endoscopic stuff that he wants to do. She's a little bit worried that that's going to upset the apple cart, so to speak, and I'll have to go back to an elimination phase and stay in that. She thinks between 6 and 8 weeks. I really want to do it in 3. So we'll see what happens. But it may reset all of my gut bacteria, right? So I might have to start over. I'm just gonna take that as it comes because there's no predicting it and there's nothing that I can do to influence the situation one way or the other. So there's really no point worrying about it. It's going to be what it is when I get there, and I'm hopeful that if I stay positive about it, I've got a better chance of having a positive outcome than if I go into it convinced that Tammy's right and it's going to be 2 more months on elimination, and because that would be pretty frustrating. I mean, the timing of it's a little bit brutal. I understand my gastro guy's I guess sense of urgency, why he wants to nip this in the bud. So we're just gonna take it as it comes. Right now I'm doing honey. Technically I'm done the honey part and waiting. So when it came to the fructose challenge, I had my choice of foods that I could use that specifically contain, that's the only FODMAP is fructose. So I could have used honey, mango, orange juice, snap peas, or asparagus. Those are the choices. And at first it feels like they all have something in common, and then you get to asparagus or peas, and I guess that's part of why I find the whole FODMAPs and the science behind the chemistry of it so interesting, because honey and asparagus, those are them. So I'm using honey. It seemed fairly easy, and I had some on hand, so why not? So all I had to do was dissolve a teaspoon and a half on the first day into a cup of water, hot water, drink it, wait, see if anything happened. Nothing really happened. The second day, I had to do that with 2 teaspoons of honey in hot water. And I made sure that I timed it. So a FODMAP reaction takes up to 6 hours. So I made sure that I didn't take it until, it's funny that I'm talking about it like it's medicine. I didn't have some honey until I knew that within 6 hours of that point, Sean would be home from work in case I did have a bad reaction to it. I had a mild reaction on the second day. Nothing major, no big deal. And then today I tried a tablespoon. So far, so good, and I'm well past the 6 hour mark, but it can take up to 3 days to have a FODMAP reaction, which is why tomorrow I will go back to elimination. The next day, elimination, and if I'm symptom-free those 2 days, then the 3rd day or the 4th day, I'll start again with my next challenge after honey. So that's how the challenge stage goes. You try a food, you take a break, back on elimination, you try the next group, take your break, and it all depends on how your body's reacting as you introduce those, whether you continue with the full 3 days, how many days you need to take off, because you have to have pretty much a really significant lessening or a cessation of symptoms before you start into the next challenge. And then when you're done that, you work on the reintroduction phase, which is when you start with individual foods within those groups. I'm not even trying to get my head around the reintroduction phase at this point. There's more than enough going on. But yeah, that's been honey. So aside from that, the rest of my diet is entirely FODMAP free. It's the fructose with the honey is the only thing that I'm introducing so that I get a true assessment of which ones are causing the actual problem. So it's interesting from that perspective too, and I think it's intense, but it's working, and I really want to get to the bottom of this. I really want to understand what I can and can't eat so that I can have as normal a life as possible. So it's going really well. For the first time in, well, a while, since before I got sick, so like 2.5 years, I've got a semi-normal, almost working relationship going on with my bathroom. It's going better than everybody predicted, and it's going better than I even wanted to let myself hope for. So that's super positive. I'm hoping it stays that way for the next 3 days, and then I get to start something new. So from that perspective, it's kind of exciting. I'm realizing now that I've sat down and talked all this out that I think at the end of the day, and this is probably contradicting something that I said earlier on in the video, I'm grateful that I'm going through the challenge phase and it's being interrupted by the procedures. The challenges are so structured that I think being confined by that structure is setting me free in other ways. So instead of, leaning into my anxiety about the procedures that are coming and what that will mean, I'm focusing instead on going through the challenge phase, and that's a lot better than the alternative, which is what's happening right now. And this is another one of those, if I turn the camera off, I'll never turn it back on moments. Well, not never, but I certainly won't continue down this road. If I let myself slip even for a minute and stop focusing on something else, especially when I'm doing something like this, I start thinking about what's going to happen and what it's going to potentially feel like when I go in for the procedure, because it brings, it's the movies and the pictures on fast forward in my brain all over again. Like it's flashes of different rooms that I was in, and they're cut in with different procedures that I had, and super interesting, right? Like, isn't this? And if you know me, you've watched me do this lots, I'm sure. And it's not that I'm shut down. There's so much going on, and I don't have a way to articulate everything that's happening. I'm trying to talk about staying focused on the challenges instead of focusing on the PTSD and all of everything that's going to go along with that. The challenges, I think, are going to help me through. The rigid structure is going to help me. And if I didn't have the challenges to work through, I'd be panicking already. I realize that in this moment, it probably looks like I am panicking, and I guess I am, and I'm just going to go with it because this is what's going to happen. But here's the thing. It would be so much worse if I didn't have everything else to think about, and if I wasn't so focused on the challenge stage of this and trying to make these little videos and trying to generate stuff to put up on Facebook and Instagram and let people know what I'm going through, because my situation might be unique, but I'm certainly not alone. You know, I realize most people don't have the diabetic experience that I've had, the way that I've had it. You know, the necrotizing pancreatitis thing, it's not rare, but it's not like IBS that happens to a lot of people. Like millions of people are affected by that. So I don't have IBS, but I still have to deal with some of the, like, I'm just trying to say that there's common ground, and common ground can sometimes be a life ring for me, in the sense that, no, I don't know somebody else who has been through exactly what I've been through. That's probably not going to happen. I mean, maybe with Instagram or, you know, Facebook, Twitter, all of that, maybe this, who knows? There, yes, for sure, there could totally be somebody out there who's been through exactly what I've been through and are in the same place that I'm in now, or have been where I'm at. For sure. I hope we find each other if you're out there. In the meantime, what I do instead is look at, somebody's got something in common with everything on some level. And it's like the arm thing, right? I've talked about this a couple of times, I think. You know, to the guy who has no arm, the guy with the broken arm's lucky. But if your arm's shattered and you've got to have surgeries and you've got to go through a lot of physio or whatever to rehab that arm, that still sucks for you, right? It's all relative. So there's something out there in everybody that the rest of us can connect to. And I look for those things in people so that I don't feel so alone. So sure, you didn't end up in the situation you're in the way that I did. But if you're somebody who's suffering with IBS or whatever it is that's making you go through this diet, that's common ground. That's a shared experience. Yeah, you're not alone. And I don't know why, as people, we find that so comforting. But it seems like most of us do. So I guess all I can do is thank you for coming along for the ride with me and letting me see that I'm not alone, and for sharing your stories with me, whether it's here or on one of the other platforms out there. To my new friend in Norway this week, it was lovely to chat. Anyway, we've all got something we can come together on, right? Thank you. Have a good night.